It's no secret that the world of SpeedCube technology has a clear separation. From spending just a small amount on something that barely turns, to dumping a large sum on the most extravagant piece of plastic money can buy. But then why are these companies wanting so much? What are they offering in return? And most importantly, is it actually worth it? Well, this is one of the largest debates in speedcubing, with all of the GAN users saying everything else is terrible, and the RS3M lovers saying that they perform as well on a cube that is under £10. But who is correct? Well, after asking other cubers for their thoughts, conducting my own research and comparing the most expensive and cheapest cubes, I think that I have found an answer. But before that, it's important to understand the differences between these two price points. So to begin, the first thing that premium cubes do so much better is the adjustments. And whilst you might not think that this directly impacts performance, it actually does, and let me explain why. Just taking a look at the GAN 13 and an RS3M, the GAN has the option to adjust the magnet strengths and a completely unique tensioning system that has been designed just for this cube, whilst the RS3M doesn't have adjustable magnets and has the same tensioning system as all of the other MoU cubes, which quite frankly isn't easy to adjust and can just be rather annoying. I mean, if you are someone who has bought a cheap cube and then instantly really likes it, then this will have a very small impact. However, if you buy it and you do not like how it performs or turns, then you won't have any choice on what you can do because of how basic the adjustments are. Therefore, if you were just to buy a more expensive cube in the first place, you could skip that hassle and have something that can perform to your needs regardless of what they are. And this will be the common theme throughout the video. Whilst you might save money in the short term buying a budget cube, in the long term you will have to buy less if you go for something more expensive because of the higher chance that you will actually enjoy turning on it. But if you don't want to spend too much, how can you get past this? Well, a good idea is to try other cubes that you don't own before you buy them. This can ensure that you don't have to pay anywhere near as much while still getting a cube that fits your preferences perfectly. But now, what other things do expensive cubes do significantly better than budget cubes? Well, this one might not appeal to a lot of people, but it is definitely worth mentioning, and that is the unboxing. Obviously, this is something that is done once and never again. Therefore, you aren't really paying 3 or 4 times the price just to get a nicer box. However, premium cubes are very similar to tech companies like Apple in that they try to make the customer experience as good as possible to cover up the fact that you spent way more than you should have on their products. So whilst this isn't something that is overly important, the next thing I would argue is one of the most overlooked features of expensive cubes, and that is the quality of the actual product. For example, on my Guhong, one of the magnets has already come loose from the corner piece, which means that they clearly did not fit it with the most premium materials. Whereas on something like my GAN 13, which I have used for well over a year at this point, there are literally no defects and it almost feels as good as when I first got it. This means that once again, if you just invest in something that costs more, it will definitely last a lot longer, and therefore after a couple of years you would have saved money. Another thing on the topic of quality is the level of plastic that companies use to produce the pieces, and this is one of the big complaints on the Dian Guhong Pro M, because they clearly compromise the raw materials in order to get the costs down. But this means that you can feel that it is cheap whilst turning, and that isn't really something that you want to be thinking about whilst on a solve. Therefore, once again, you will likely see better results on a more expensive cube. And this is the next thing I want to cover. Does the performance actually change based on how much you pay? So to answer this, I did a range of tests on my own, as well as asking other cubers what they thought to get a full range of opinions. And from the community post, the overwhelming majority said that more expensive cubes made a bit of a difference, in that if you pay more, you will notice slightly better times. And this is something that I also noticed. After doing 50 solves on 4 cubes at completely different prices, I noticed that my times did decrease as the cubes got more expensive. However, the amount that they decreased by was nowhere near proportional to how much I paid for them. Furthermore, I think that it is summarized perfectly in this comment. It's not price, just if I'm used to it or not. And this is something that is very clear, because the 2 cubes that cost the most are also the 2 that I have mained for the longest, therefore meaning I am the most comfortable on them, which leads to better performance. And so if I spent every day for the next year only using the RS3M, the results would likely be very different, and I'm sure that that cube would come out on top. So the performance, according to many cubers, is slightly impacted by the price. However, what is something that is the same regardless of how much you pay? Well, the feeling of the cube while solving is something that varies massively from puzzle to puzzle, but I wouldn't say that any one is worse than another regardless of price. For example, if you ignore the poor quality of plastic, at just £15 the Guhong Pro M feels extremely nice to turn on, which is incredible for a cube at such a low price. Similarly, the Tornado, which is more of a mid-range puzzle, is also really enjoyable to use. Therefore, overall I think that the lesson is that cheap cubes can perform really well, and so can expensive ones. I mean, you are more likely to have a better and longer lasting experience the more you pay. However, this shouldn't stop anyone from buying something like the RS3M and performing extremely well on it. I think that the most important thing is to find a good middle ground, where performance and experience meet, and for me this is something like the Tornado version 3. So to finally answer the question, does price matter? Yes, but only to a certain extent. Make sure to subscribe and click this video next. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and thank you very much for watching.